Hello and welcome to Toneless Painting with M. Francis McCarthy. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy. And this is day 5 of 25 days of tonalism. The study that we are doing today is painted after, it's French, so pardon me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's Paul Desert Trouillebert. Trouillebert. Interesting guy and very reminiscent of Camille Corot. In fact, I found a website here. I'll read you a few paragraphs from their little bio of him, and I'll have a link for that in the accompanying blog post of this. So if you're checking this out on YouTube, just scroll under the video. You'll see a link to my website there. You can follow my blog there very easily. There's also, it's on Blogspot, you know. I always forget what the name is on Blogspot. I kind of just have it embedded in my site, and that's how I generally send people to it. But there's going to be some accompanying links there, and of course you could just put the name in Google, or actually Bing is what I put it in. Bing. Anyway, let's read you a little bit about this guy. I didn't do any works by this guy he's a Barbizon painter. Clearly this is not actually truly tonalism, but I choose to consider it tonalism because that suits me, and I see the direct correlation. And anyway, here we go. This is off the site rehs.com, and this is Ray's Gallery. Let's go ahead and read you a bit here. Paul Desiré Trouillebert, 1829 to 1900. Some artists become defined by their association with another artist, bringing forth both positive and negative implications. Such was the case with Paul, whose works bore such a striking resemblance to those of his predecessor, Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot, that the great writer Alexandre Dumas purchased what he believed to be a painting by Corot, which was actually a Trouillebert bearing a forged Corot signature. What a bummer. A cynical critic wrote in the century of 1892 that imitation can go but a little way and is always without value, although its appearance is no argument against the art imitated. Witness Mr. Trouillebert. Despite such harsh criticism, Trouillebert was not only interested in depicting landscapes similar to those of the Barbizon school, but also showed an interest in genre scenes and portraits, exhibiting several times at the Salon from 1865 to 1884. Yeah, this guy's work looks a lot like Corot, but I mean, I see the differences immediately. So perhaps you could, slap a Corot signature on one of these, and somebody who wasn't too discriminating would agree. The main thing I'm seeing is just a warmer, in general, approach than Corot's, who was a bit more silver gray. But also his tree shapes are very distinctive. The way he handles the trunks and the types of compositions that he's choosing to do are very distinctive, and you'll see that yourself if you click on a few of those links. There's one from Art Renewal Center which shows about 8 or 9 paintings of his, all of which I made little snapshots of because I like this stuff a lot. I'm gonna be probably incorporating some in my one of my future passes of studies after masters. I really like the types of scenes he picks and the compositions that he goes with. Anyway, I mean, I see the differences between him and Corot. It's clearly, it's very obvious to see the influence. And, of course, one of the most distinctive influences that, is it's easy to perceive is the way that Corot handles the light coming through the edges of the trees. Paul Trouillebert here is definitely studied that closely and is emulating that approach very closely. However, I will say that his trees don't have quite as much air in them as Corot's, and there's just a bit more overall kind of tightness about things in his work than in Corot. Although Corot was, not a loose painter, but he had a loosish quality, and I think that's important to make a distinction about. Anyway, like I said, I don't know. I think we might be doing two Paul Troulleberts. No doubt I probably came across some of this when I was a lot of the paintings that we're talking about and that we did in this 25 Days of Tonalism, I probably came across while I was doing the actual blog posts for the 100 Days of Tonalism, and I probably just, I set them aside, and I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to do a little study after that. And one of the things I like about this painting is he's very successful at this extreme diagonal thing, which it's so hard to pull off, and I think he does a good job with it. It's very distinctive, but it works here, and it doesn't detract. And one of the things I like about this is I'd certainly approach this the same way that I would approach making a study after Corot. A lot of silvery greens and silvery grays, and the greens are more in the olive area and certainly less bright and chromatic than what I like to do in my work, although I don't go with I like chroma in my greens, but it's a type of chroma that's arrived at by a certain strategy, not from the tube, so to speak. There's very few greens that come out of a tube that I do use as I've stated before, phthalo green and permanent green light, but just to push things here or there. The phthalo green is the main ingredient in my darks, and the permanent green light, I like to maybe add that to a brown to kind of give it a greenish feel really quickly. And by the way, the best permanent green light is from Gamblin. I've wrote about that on my blog. It's much stronger than your permanent green lights you get from a lot of other companies, and far more usable. It's not a strong color by any means, but it's a useful color. I keep it on my palette. I mean, if I had to sacrifice a color, it'd be one of the first to go, because I don't use it very often. I also have a real bright red that's like that, but sometimes I find, like with that red, there's places I want to push things, and my burnt sienna won't do it. I need a brighter, cleaner, cooler red. And of course I've talked about color decisions and all that on my blog. In fact, I've talked about so many things on the blog. I know I'm repeating myself now, and I made a decision. I don't care, because and in fact, one of the things I was thinking about today is that for me, being a landscape painter is really so much about the process of working, and the paintings are the results of the working. And don't get me wrong, I love my paintings, and I'm happy to keep them and sell them, and I want them to continue forward in this reality after I've departed. But the most important thing is to do the work and to create work that I think is attractive and meaningful, at least to me. And all of us as artists and painters, and you need to decide what you're about and what you're after. And that's one of the reasons why I can do these studies and quite enjoy them. And I'm also happy to sell them too. I really don't mind. I always make sure to attribute the original source material on the back and make it very clear that it's a study after another painter. But also, of course, I get a lot of education from this. It's the kind of education that I have a use for. There was a time when I first started out painting that I was very interested in, just learning everything about oil paint and different techniques of applying it, and had lots of books, and I still have quite a few books. I don't really look at them very often, but because I've got to the point where I know how I like to approach painting, and I've tried a lot of different ways, and so I'm fairly well settled in that regard. I'm not what you'd call an experimental painter who's constantly trying a different type of wood or a different type of brush, even different types of paints. I did a lot of adjusting last year, but that was really just to push every element of my palette into 100 guaranteed permanent category. and so I had to adjust some of the colors that I'd used in the past for that reason. And that's pretty much the only reason. I mean, I have a palette that enables me to do almost everything I would like to do. And frankly, some of these brighter colors I couldn't capture. I'm better off not doing that because those colors don't look good in landscape anyway. And I'm not painting fruit over here. I'm painting landscapes. Anyway, I can see we're getting close to the end. Thanks for joining us for day 5. We'll have day 6 next week, and that will be featuring Leon Richer. It's a landscape, another Barbizon painter. Really cool little scene that we made a study of, and you be sure and come back and check that out. Meanwhile, if you'd like to see more of my work, go to landscapepainter.co.nz. You can follow the blog there. There's some paintings there. I need to update that with some more of my contemporary stuff, but I will. Meanwhile, we'll see you next week. Take good care and stay out of trouble.